This is the short but sobering tale of what happened to monasteries in England because Henry VIII divorced his wife, and how little Jack Horner pulled out his plum. See, Henry divorced his wife in defiance of the Pope, turned the country Protestant, and in 1536 started taking their lands and properties away from these monasteries. A, because they were Catholic, and B, because they had twice as much money as he had, and he was a bit short of cash. Now, at some places, like Glastonbury, they thought they knew how to buy a little time. The idea was probably cooked up by the abbot's steward, a certain Jack Horner. Send a pie to the king containing title deeds to some abbey properties. This rich little pie filling was supposed to make the king conveniently forget the rest of the abbey's property. Well, on the way to London, little Jack Horner pulled out his plum, one of the property deeds, and the king got what was left, which wasn't enough. So the plan failed. Henry took everything. And that's why map-making got better, because when Henry sold all those monastic lands, he kicked off a surveyor's bonanza, because all the buyers wanted their land measured first. Christopher Saxton, one of the surveyors, put his profession on the map in 1584 by producing the first national atlas in the Western world, showing almost every river and town and a rough idea of the terrain. His maps didn't, of course, include Scotland, because it was a separate sovereign state at the time. Strangely enough, John Ogilby left Scotland out of his maps too, nearly 100 years later, when Scotland was ruled from London. These were the first systematic surveys of all main roads in the country, and like this one, of the road north from London, they showed county names, towns, bridges, and distance marked by the new statute mile. And yet Ogilby went only as far as the border with all this fancy detail. Up here in the Scottish Highlands, there wasn't anything like that. I mean, why bother, said the English. Look at it, there's nothing worth bothering about. Well, the 1715 rebellion proved that there was. And still nothing was done. Until, in 1724, the Member of Parliament for Bath, a retired Major General called George Wade, was sent up here to report on how the post-war pacification of the clans was going. He wrote back a letter saying that it wasn't, and that they were as ready to revolt as they ever had been, and that what this country needed was more garrisons, more troops, and above all, a road to move the troops around on. So the king said, OK, go ahead, and they started to work. The work took 500 men with picks and shovels, and they laid a layer of large stones, then a layer of smaller stones, and then packed the surface with gravel, and when necessary, built drainage ditches on either side of the road. When the military road was finished, it was one of the best in Europe. And to this day, it's named after the man who built it. This is called Wade's Road. The English were so pleased with Wade that in 1745, when he was using his road to chase Bonnie Prince Charlie, they even added a verse to the national anthem. God grant that Marshal Wade may by thy mighty aid victory bring. May he sedition hush, and like a torrent rush, rebellious Scots to crush. God save the King.